Yeah, you're probably right.
Speaking of dark.
Whoa.
Well, Drew just turned off all the lights.
Turned off the lights. This is actually crazy.
Which is the perfect time to talk about. Did you see any of this Coleco Chameleon shit?
No.
Man. What a...
Coleco
Chameleon.
Oh.
It is...
I mean, there was a Kickstarter for it. I know that much.
So no,
or a crowdfunding
there's not
thing,
been
right?
one for the Coleco. So this thing started as the Retro VGS,
right?
And they launched an Indiegogo.
That's what I was thinking of.
And that failed.
Yes.
And they pulled it down when it was clear it wasn't going to pass.
Is this the thing that looked like a Jaguar?
Yes,
Okay.
they purchased they say that they purchased the shells of the Jaguar, cartridges, and a console, and they were going to make a new.
Oh, this was
device.
also the one that pitched itself as like, you'll never have to patch a game because we'll make them right the first time.
Exactly.
All that shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like their thing was like, we won't let people ship games with bugs. It's like, okay, well, are you going to have the QA department size to actually make that a reality? Or, I mean, you're getting a lot of indie games that, you know, like these guys are small teams that maybe need a little help. Like what? No answer to that question.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they launched that thing. It didn't go. The Retro VGS Kickstarter or Indiegogo did not go. And there's a lot of questions about like the innards of it, and they were like, well, if it gets back to this level, then we'll put a bunch of FPGA stuff in it. You'll be able to play Super Nintendo games, do all this other stuff. It'll be a more capable system. And it just like was this crazy sounding thing that was like, oh, this is maybe intriguing, but this also sounds insane. And by the end of it, when they kind of wrapped up shop on the Retro VGS side of things, it started to look a little bit like a scam. They had not produced any kind of prototype hardware. You were just like, okay, this seems like a guy with an idea, and it's the guy. It's a guy behind an alternative to eBay for retro games.
Huh?
It's an auction site that they sell. You know,
just for games.
Yeah.
It seems a little.
Is that what
limited
it's called?
And no,
scope?
no, it's not. It's been around for that site's been around for a while, and you know, in that community, my understanding is that it's effective at doing what it sets out to do. And so the Retro VGS thing kind of came and went, and you're like, okay, well, I guess that's that. And then the Coleco Chameleon was announced, and it's a console and a Jaguar shell with the Jaguar-shaped cartridges.
What?
It's
what?
So they put out an announcement a while ago. This was late last year, saying, hey, so basically it seems like the guy or some of the people that worked on that other thing went to a company that is called Coleco Holdings, LLC, which is now the company that owns the IP rights to ColecoVision and all that stuff. It's not the original Coleco. It's not the same company. It's not like a going concern in that way.
Right.
And secured the rights to the name to release a new console. And it wasn't really clear. Like at that point, they were like, we're going to have more at Toy Fair. And we'll have more to say at Toy Fair was the gist of their initial announcement.
I love the Toy Fair is still a
Toy
thing.
Fair. Yeah.
Right now, the devil's advocate part of me is like, oh, maybe they stopped development on this VGS thing once they realized they could acquire a big name like ColecoVision. Like, okay, let's turn this idea into...
Give it some clout.
Yeah, that this would give it some oomph that it would need to kind of get out there to people. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. At that point, I was like, okay, well, like they say that they're, maybe going to rein it in a little bit and kind of focus more on some stuff. But it was they said they went and contacted they contracted a longtime video game PR person or company. So like the release came from someone I knew.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, all right. Well, it looks like these Coleco guys and these guys are like at least trying to make a go of it in some kind of legit way. So I responded with some questions. I said like, so is this going to be equivalent to the high-end Retro VGS or the low-end Retro VGS, assuming it was just going to be the exact same platform? And, hey, what games are coming? Because they'd already announced some games that were supposed to be coming to the Retro VGS. So it was like, okay, are these games still coming to this thing or not?
This is not a plays old ColecoVision games thing?
No.
Oh.
Well, yes, but not only that. Like the cartridge port would not fit ColecoVision cartridges.
Okay. Are you burning new games onto ROM?
You will buy I think the theory is yes, you would buy a cartridge for a game. You would put it in, turn it on, and play the game. Done. Like a new old game or old games repackaged, perhaps.
Okay.
It was unclear in a lot of cases.
Okay.
But they put out a trailer that actually showed a bunch of old ColecoVision games as if to imply that these would be coming to the Coleco Chameleon. But without kind of saying how they'd be sold or priced or, if it'd be a collection or what the deal is there. So I wrote back, I responded to the press release with some questions, and the PR person said, I'm going to let Mike take these. Never heard back.
Okay.
So, okay. I was like, all right, well, whatever. They're getting ready for Toy Fair. don't have time to respond, or they're not ready to talk about it, and that's how it goes, or whatever. We don't always get.
We'll have more to say. Toy
Yeah, we don't always get responses to the emails we send or receive, for that matter. So they went to Toy Fair and they put up video on their Facebook page of Jim Power being played, which was a Super Nintendo game that was kind of like Turrican. That's the music from the same guy that did that game, and it's this weird double, triple parallax scrolling fucking nightmare side-scrolling game. And it was just footage of that being played with what appeared to be a Super Nintendo controller, which is weird. And so it was footage of the thing running on the thing, but you're like, wait, and it's a game that appeared on Steam. Like it's one of those things, like almost like that Bubsy thing where they put out the SNES game on Steam. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this thing will play Super Nintendo games, and because they talked about it as like this, not quite an emulator. The FPGA is a little bit of a different thing inside that would let them play old games, and it might as well be an emulator, basically. So. But at the same time, people were like, well, what's powering this thing? What's going on? Like, we'll see the other games. What are you doing? Like, people had a lot of questions because of how things went the last time. And they were like, oh, we're getting ready to launch our Kickstarter. It's going to launch on this date and all this other stuff. And then, the actual order of events, I'm not 100% clear on, but they put up a picture of the prototype hardware, which was a frosted clear Jaguar shell with some kind of innards
transparent cases coming back. Huh?
Yeah. Which when they did the retro VGS, that was like, if you paid extra, you could get a skeleton shell, like a Dreamcast or something. So people started staring at the supposed prototype console and looking at all the different hookups and trying to figure out, like, what is this thing actually? And it seems like it might have been a gutted Super Nintendo crammed into this shell.
What?
Along with a PCI capture card.
What?
That was sitting in it to look like it had chips. So people were staring at it and going like, well, what is this thing? What is this thing? And then someone produced a photo of this old-ass capture card that if you look at it, you're like, oh, this, like that chip there, those resistors here, that here, like there are those capacitors here. That is totally that board slapped into that shell. And then that picture disappeared off of their Facebook page.
Whoa.
So hang on. Was it determined that capture card was in there serving any function, or was it just there to take up space?
Probably just there to take up space.
Wow.
That's my take on it, is it's just there to take up space. Okay. So if the shots of the back of that thing had ports in the exact same place they would be on a SNES Junior, the smaller Super Nintendo, that you would gut to put in this case.
Sure.
They have since postponed their Kickstarter launch because you can't launch on Kickstarter unless you have prototype hardware. That's actually one of their rules.
Seems like a good rule.
Yeah. So then a separate Facebook page for Coleco posted. Actually, let me see if I can call this up. But
I think I heard this part and it sounds crazy.
The gist of it is that Coleco is like, we are asking them to produce the prototype so that our engineers can look at it, and if we determine that it is not
what
on the level, then we reserve the right to back out of this project. Here we go. Yeah, so here we go. This was posted on March 2nd. Chameleon product, : we are thankful to have a large group of passionate engineers and retro game enthusiasts who follow Coleco and other product lines. It has come to our attention that the community has certain concerns over the prototypes involving the retro VGS model. The team at Retro remains confident that their product is developed to the extent as described. However, in order to confirm or debase these concerns, Coleco has demanded to inspect the prototype units within a 7-day time frame, at which time independent engineers will review their findings and determine if those units are up to our standards. We will report some or all of those findings to the community, so as long as they do not interfere with proprietary information. We remain hopeful that the community's concerns are merely speculations, but if there is merit to the concerns, then we have no choice but to abandon the project rather than release a subpar product. During this time, we ask the community allow us time to complete these inspections. Time extensions will only be granted if requested by the independent engineer. Time extensions and results will be posted here.
Oh, wow.
That is the last update on the ColecoVision Facebook page.
Seems shady.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say.
Absolutely shady is the word.
Wow.
So when they first announced the Chameleon, they didn't say it was going to Kickstarter, so I actually created a page for it in the wiki. which we normally don't allow things into the wiki until they've cleared like a crowdfunding stage,
Right.
or if they fail the crowdfunding stage, but it is confirmed that development will continue, then we'll add it at that point. But while it's kind of this iffy limbo thing, we don't want to add a bunch of pages for games that don't exist and are just like someone's idea
Right.
before then. So I created a Coleco Chameleon page and then realized
I'm regretting it.
Realized it was going to crowdfunding, and I was like, well, I'm going to leave it in here for now rather than delete it and just recreate it if it clears funding. Upon seeing this message, I went in and deleted the page.
Man,
Now it's official.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
I can't believe that the legal remains of the Coleco company are the ones that are like the good guys and all.
Yeah,
this.
they actually care.
Like for
about
once,
their brand.
For
Well,
once,
they-
the
they-
little holding company that like contains the remnants of this old brand. are
Yeah,
the
well,
ones
they
that are, like,
licensed their stuff out for those Coleco. They put out a flashback machine, which is one of those, like, it's a ColecoVision shaped box that is just hooks up to a modern TV and has 30 built-in games or whatever. Like, they've put out products like that were relatively well received.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they do have something to lose by putting their name on subpar stuff.
So that name still traffics.
Yeah,
with people.
to some extent. I mean, they wouldn't have done this deal to do the Chameleon if the name didn't still traffic in some circles.
Sure.
This is insane.
Nuts.
This is,
and it seems like it all pretty much traces back to this one guy, more or less.
Yeah.
Or at least he's the one putting his name on it.
Yeah, there was a team responsible, like people that there were names associated with it that had real experience developing like classic consoles,
Right?
And so it's, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like you look at their message all along the way, it's like, well, their heart's in the right place, but it seems like there's this real lack of understanding about why a game might get patched,
Right.
and why that might be an okay thing, or how modern game development has changed in such a way that not allowing patches has probably become a negative.
Like that
thing.
just makes that guy sound like some kind of crazed ideologue, basically. Like he's more concerned about his philosophy of how games used to be and how they should be again.
Yes,
instead of paying attention to how they're actually made now.
Yeah, so that's real wild.
Yeah.
Real wild.
Wow.
And I'm curious to see how this wraps up.
Yeah, especially because they straight up said, "Hey, we'll post our findings here once we get a hold of this prototype."
And that would be Wednesday of this week. Would be the 7 days, I
Awesome.
believe. So, well, maybe they probably wouldn't post the results immediately, but that they are still within the 7-day window as of this recording.
What a perfect name.
Right. Right?
Yeah, that's
Holy
good.
shit.
Wow. That's good stuff.
I don't understand how this stuff happens, or how this happens to this extent and gets to this point. Like, is everyone's heart in the right place? Is someone trying to pull a fast one? Is someone trying to like make some fast money and bail? Like, you have to wonder, like, what's the end game here?
Yeah.
Is the end game to produce the actual product, or is the end game to try to like swindle people, or like what? I just don't know.
Man.
And it's like some of the names behind this thing again have been kicking around retro communities and stuff for a while, and some of this stuff. So
I just found that press release in my inbox, and you're right.
Yeah,
like there are recognizable names in there.
And so I don't know what to make of it. It's a real like, weird story.
Get the money first, then build it.
Like maybe that's their plan, is to try to like get the round of funding so that they can build the thing. Like, they know what they want to build, they just can't prototype it without any of the money.
You're at least not just trying to defraud people at that point.
You want to believe that no one would go into this thing just attempting to just straight up defraud people,
right?
Yeah.
Also, like, is there even the money in this idea to, like, for that to even be worth
I
it?
mean, that's the other thing is, like, that idea of like, let's make a new old video game console. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But there are things about modern video game consoles that aren't necessarily bad. Like, one of the things they were like, and there's not going to be any menu or front end in this thing.
It just boots to the game.
It just
or
boots
whatever.
to the game. And you're like, okay. Like, there are some benefits of having other features and functionality in a console.
Sure.
Like, what if you wanted to have some internal memory to boot emulated games or something like that? Or, like, there's other use cases for this thing. I just don't. Yeah, it was one of those things where, exactly. The ideology behind it seemed to be like trying to be faithful to a fault, to a real fault.
Right.
When there would be a smarter way. Like, if you had it all back and you could make a new old video game console.
Right.
Like, the things you'd hang your hat on wouldn't be no patches and no front end.
Right.
it'd be like, well, what's some cool ways we can use that stuff,
Right.
to
Like learn from all the developments that have happened
Check it out,
in the
guys.
last 20 years.
No wireless controllers.
okay.
Yeah.
2-foot cables.
Fucking
What do you
cords.
think?
That's right.
The second controller is hardwired to the system.
Now I have to sit cross-legged on the floor in front of the TV like when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's
No.
It's
What a weird situation. Yeah,
very weird situation.
I will be super curious to see how that stuff shakes out.
Yeah,
That's pretty wild.
that's a book.
Totally.
That's almost a book.
Oh, there's so many good books in this industry.
Give it one or two more chapters of twists and turns.
Yeah.
And you got something.
There's so many books waiting to be written about weird business shit
Yeah.
in video games. All right. Crap. I'm
I'm sorry to totally derail you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm adrift in a sea of emails here. Let's take a